In this chapter, we will examine the combination of kite piloting and board control required for a successful water start. As usual, we will run you through the most common mistakes made. The water start is the most eagerly awaited stage for the learner kite surfer. This is the ultimate moment when you will find yourself standing up to surf on the water. The aim is to create enough power from the kite to pull you up onto your board and to keep your balance. You must be able to control your kite in order to balance the power. Piloting the kite and controlling your board. The different phases of work with the kite have already been introduced in Chapter 7, Piloting for the Sand Start. Initially, we will describe the kite movements for a water start. Starting from the zenith, begin kite movement. You will need to be able to start the correct kite movement. Sign or power it and place it at the edge of the wind window. One, setting up the kite. Beginning from the zenith, fly the kite into the half or the wind window opposite to the direction you wish to go. In other words, fly towards 11 o'clock to do a water start to the right. Send the kite to 1 o'clock to do a water start to the left-hand side. The weaker the wind, the more inertia you will require. The more inertia your kite gathers, the more it will tend to rotate you downwind, so the board must be slightly orientated towards the reach. Follow this movement by slightly straightening the front and bending your rear leg. Two, beginning the kite movement gathering inertia. For the power required on the side of the wind window you have chosen for the water start, your kite must gather inertia. Experiment with flying the kite and gathering inertia in the chosen side of the wind window to obtain more or less power. This is important because your water start, as well as your first tack, will depend on control of the inertia. You must be able to perfectly visualize the wind window and pilot your kite with a certain amount of skill. Remember to follow the kite traction with your upper body. To place yourself over the board, do not straighten your legs, keep a squat position for better balance. Allow yourself to gather speed while keeping an eye on your kite. Press lightly on your heels as you bring your kite up to begin signing. Three, signing the kite. To increase power, fly your kite up and down in one half of the wind window to gain speed. Depending on your water start and on the force of the wind, you will need to give your kite more or less inertia on one side of the wind window to gain power. Remember not to bring your kite up to the zenith or into the opposite half of the wind window to your heading. In order to control your board properly, you must oppose the traction of the kite by edging with your heels and balancing this edging in a stance so that you travel in a straight line crosswind. You should now feel the force of the kite on the harness. This balanced stance will free your arms so that you can pilot your kite correctly. 4. Placing the kite. Placing the kite means putting it in a fixed position, generally at 45 degrees in one half of the wind window. That is at the 10:30 position on the left-hand side of the wind window, and at the 1:30 position on the right-hand side of the wind window. Once you have gained enough speed using the signing movement, you can place your kite at the edge of the window and begin to experiment with sheeting the kite in and out to provide enough power. This is your cruise position. You can now begin to experiment with edging to refine your tack.
Depending on the force of the wind and on the size of the kite, the course of your kite will be different for the water start. This is the course of the kite for a water start in low winds. When the wind is low, you'll need to set up your kite as far away from the zenith as possible and to cross the highest power zone of the wind window. Once you're on your board, remember to continue giving your kite inertia using a sweeping and regular movement to remain on the surface of the water. This is the course of the kite for a water start in strong winds. In strong winds, it's sometimes unnecessary to give your kite inertia. Just bringing the kite into the wind window will be enough to put you onto the board. Once surfing, sheet in or out to control the power of the kite. You should try your first water starts without giving the kite too much inertia and power. You can always try again and increase the power as you go.
Common mistakes. The most common mistakes for the water start are insufficient kite setup. In this case, you won't have enough power in the wind window and you will find it difficult to get on the board. Don't bring the kite up too early. When you first give your kite inertia, the kite reaches the middle of the side of the wind window and you are pulled onto the board. If you bring your kite back to the zenith at this moment, then you will lose power and stop. You must continue to fly your kite downwards to gain inertia. You can then bring it back up to 45 degrees to place it here, or continue signing the kite in order to gain inertia. Giving the kite too much or too little inertia in the half window. You must manage your half of the wind window like a gearbox. Giving your kite too much inertia will give you too much traction and pull you off balance or jerk you forwards. Conversely, keeping your kite too close to the edge of the wind window will not give you enough power to lift you out of the water. You must learn to give the correct amount of inertia depending on the weather and the reactions of your kite. Once up on your board, don't grip the bar. If you grip the bar excessively to try and get your balance, for example, you will find it impossible to pilot your kite and to manage the power you need. Remember to sit into the harness and to relax, keeping your arms free. Legs straight. In this position, it is difficult to keep your balance on the water and to remain on the board. Bend your knees, lower your center of gravity, and keep a tight position. Keep your legs bent and extend your upper body. Too much or too little pressure on your heels. If there is too much pressure on your heels or on your rear leg, then it will be difficult to get onto the board and gather speed. On the contrary, if you keep your feet flat, then you will tend to fall downwind without opposing the traction of the kite. Experiment with the timing and the angle of your edging to maintain sufficient speed.